Hey there, this is Rob from Southgate Media Group. The following podcast was recorded during the SMG Podcast Marathon at Indy PopCon 2018 in Indianapolis, Indiana. This podcast marathon was 10 hours long and featured 19 podcasts covering a wide variety of geek-centric topics. Before we jump into the episode, I want to thank our amazing sponsors for this SMG Podcast Marathon. Without you, it would not have been nearly as cool. Links to our sponsors can be found in the show notes and at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. First of all, thank you to Tango Comics for the exceptional event poster. Thanks to our banner sponsors, Passionerdly Podcasts, Tome Travelers Podcast, Kinda Nerdy News with KJ Podcast, Movie Madness Podcast, Ed Maudlin and the Maudlin Realty Group, Very Dark, Very Quick Podcast, Advanced TV Herstory Podcast, Seriously? Let's Play Podcast, Dice Voyeurs Podcast, The Masks of Nythralothtop Podcast, The Crit Show Podcast, The Amazing LARP, Chronicles of the Realm, Midnight Matinees Podcast, The Blue Box Café in Elgin, Illinois, Otherworld Theater in Chicago, Illinois, the This Week in Geek Podcast, live at the Blue Box Podcast, the Binge-worthy Podcast, and SMG Micro-Cons. A special thanks to the Bonus Hours Podcast Network for sponsoring our free charging station. There would have been a lot of dead devices without your support. And finally, thanks to the sponsors of our program. The Bonus Hours Podcast Network, featuring the podcast Between the Profound and Profane, Kinda Nerdy News with KJ, The Crit Show, an actual play podcast, Very Dark, Very Quick, the podcast, Passionerdly.com, featuring the podcasts Dice Voyeurs and Tome Travelers, the Kevin Long Show podcast, and finally, the upcoming book, Pod Life, Podcaster Stories. And there we go, the plugs are done. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the League of Geeks Toy Box. Woo! So for those,
I misspelled Toy Box. No, I'm kidding.
You know, it's just like our 30 days in October. For those that don't know, I do a podcast called the League of Geeks Podcast, and in that podcast, there's a segment that we talk toy news, talk about our toy pickups for the week, whatever toy things we want to talk about. We've delved into everything that's happened in the toy world. I was thinking about going into some E3 news, but all the stuff that is early leaks, I didn't really care about yet. So we're going to hold off on E3, but I thought since I've got two guys here who enjoy the video game genre as much as they do, that we're going to go over and talk about our top video games.
All right.
Of all time.
Oh, all right.
Of all time?
Of all time. Computer, you know, if you want to talk about Oregon Trail, if you want to talk about whatever you want to talk, because you guys are old, and I'm sure that was like
Oregon Trail
cutting
was the
edge when you were playing
Pardon
it.
me for all you little kids.
What's that
Biggest
Mind
MF.
game? The one you got with your Microsoft Mind?
The Minesweeper?
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper was awesome.
That stupid game ate up all my time.
Like, where's that bomb? Where's the
I
bomb?
hated it.
So
All right.
I figured we'll try to give our top games and go over that, see if everybody agrees, and I will first, before we get started, let me introduce who's here with me tonight. Not my normal co-hosts, but I'll this time let you start, Rob.
Which one of us is the black one?
I would say Chris.
Chris.
Oh, you know what?
You said it's a Lil.
I said it was you.
Oh, okay. Me.
So you're a Lil.
I'm Sean.
You're Sean. And I'm Steve, keeping it green. Well, I do have the beard. He's got the beard, the Amish beard.
He does have the beard going.
He's kind of Amish looking.
Does he?
Sometimes, yeah.
So I'm Rob Southgate with Southgate Media Group.
I'm Chris Mao, Blue Box Cafe.
And of course, I'm a Lil Kanitsa with the League of Geeks podcast.
Of a Lil.
Of a Lil, and a Lilisms. So Rob, what's one of your top 5 games of all time?
Top 5 games of all time. You know, it's tough because I've played for so long, so many different platforms. I'm going to go right away for something a little bit newer. Not new, but newer. I was completely obsessed with Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
Obsessed. I mean, I played all the way through. I even took my time with it when I did, I went beyond the story mission stuff and was like, I'm going to go hunt in the woods and kill bear for, a week. That's all I did. I rode the train for hours. Nothing happens on the train except you could hit the button and say, howdy. I did that. I loved that game. And I completed it. And did anyone else play that game to completion? That ending was spectacular. And it was such a shocking ending. You get to it and you're like, crap, I ruined the game. I got to go back to my save. There is no going back. What happens, happens. And it is unbelievable. It's a great game. So great that I will buy a PS4 for Red Dead Redemption 2.
I was just about to ask you that.
No question. All those other games that have come out, I love Skyrim and I love, all these games.
Is it exclusive to PlayStation?
Is it?
I think it's cross. So
okay,
you don't need a PS4 only.
Okay, well maybe I'll get an Xbox. Whatever, I'll figure out which one. But I'm getting one of the new generation because that game, and that's saying a lot because I loved Fallout, and I look at those Fallout 76 looks amazing.
What is it? Fallout 4 is the one that's now?
But it won't make me buy a system. Red Dead Redemption 2 is making me buy a system.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, that's all. I've never played it.
I didn't go into it thinking that was going to be the case either. It's deep. It's so good.
I've heard nothing but great things about it. I've never played it.
Killer.
My other co-hosts, they've been talking about it. I know this game has been delayed. I think it's been now almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're
it's
tweaking it from what I've understood. They just keep they don't want it to come out and be a buggy game.
Like Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh.
Right.
All right, Chris.
I'm going to go along a Star Wars game. I thought Knights of the Old Republic was fantastic.
First one?
The first one was fantastic. I mean, because it was the first Star Wars actual, Jedi game as opposed to, hey, I'm going to fly a TIE fighter, hey, I'm going to do that. And it had, although it was a little bit linear, it was really cool. And you did have some choices, and you could go light side, dark side, and you could mess up, and you could, screw up your character. But it was cool.
Both KOTOR games were really great.
What system was that on?
That was I got it for PC. So
Yeah, I played it on
it was probably
Xbox.
Xbox. Yeah,
Xbox One original?
Yeah.
I just picked up an Xbox at a flea market last week for $10.
Nice.
In the box, so I guess I'll have to look for that game.
You know what?
That's the 360.
That's the
that
360,
has that.
which I had 3 times. I'll tell you what, for the Xbox One, this is a game that is stupid, and it's so much fun. Get Black. Anyone play Black?
I played it way back.
It's just a stupid shooter, right? But it's insane. And even now. Yeah, it looked gorgeous then. And it's you know how shooters, it's wow, I got this special gun. It's the whole game is special guns. And it's just an insane, all you're doing is shooting nonstop. And it's got this great thing when you're shooting where it's just the clips are falling the whole time you're shooting. And just this is so mindless. It's so good. Black. Good game.
I'm going complete opposite of you guys because you both go into very detailed video game worlds. I'm not that. I'm an 8-bit purist. That's my thing. I love the NES.
So do I.
I'll even go 16-bit. But in my top 5, I'm gonna go Mega Man 2.
Interesting. Now
I can play that now. For the Nintendo Switch, they just released a whole Mega Man Classic for the first 1 through 10, and then they're actually doing the Mega Man X series, and I can't wait to pick it up. Even though I have 5 copies of Mega Man 2.
I just heard you on another show talk about this, and the guys on there are younger, and they did not know what that was.
They didn't know what that was. They didn't know. I mean, we'll get to it.
It's ridiculous.
Legend of Zelda. I'm like,
what? Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to bring up Mega Man because I was going to tell you I never played Mega Man. For whatever reason, it just never entered my playing. Now, I do have the collection. I think it was on the GameCube.
It's been out many a times.
Yeah.
I think there was a Mega Man X collection on the GameCube that had all the different iterations. And I've started all of them and played a little bit. And I don't know. It hasn't captured me. But I will try to and see how that goes. And I know people that love that game.
I think if you're going for one game in that series,
Two.
It's 2 for me. Yeah, I think 2. It's kind of After 2, they go a little more techie with his weapon and what he can do. The first one was very basic, and then the second one kind of gave you it was kind of like that, not over the top with his weaponry, but you get some good weapons, you get some good bad guys. It's got some great gameplay. It's got a lot of different world elements.
It's really interesting
fun.
that one didn't hit my radar too. Just like what's
But
the
it's
other one
similar
with,
to other
with Magnus?
It's similar to other games in it. I mean, I think it's your preference along those. Mega Man was great. I mean, and the first one was a little generic and a little 8-bit-ish.
Yeah.
But when they did 2 was 16-bit. It
was 2 was 8-bit.
It's still 8-bit, but
Yeah, it was still 8-bit.
It got a lot better.
Well, what was the other one with Magnus or Magus? The one where you find out later that it's a spoiler. The main character is a female.
Oh, Metroid.
Metroid was another one that completely was not in my realm, which is weird because I played Samus. That's her name. I played so much. 10-year-old or 11-year-old just schooled me. I played so much of that 8-bit stuff and 16-bit stuff, and for some reason those just weren't in my
two of the most popular Nintendo games of all time.
I know. I don't know how I missed those.
I'm shocked on Metroid. I mean, Mega Man 2, I guess I can see.
Metroid did not at all. And then when it came out as Super Metroid, I didn't do it on the Super NES. I did the disc-based one, Metroid Prime.
Okay,
Holy cow,
the GameCube. That was the GameCube.
That was great.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Another game I love.
Now, actually, for me, it was like when you're talking those old ones. It was all about Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
I could play that thing. Well, I did. I played it endlessly. What was Contra? Up, down, down, left, right.
Konami.
Yep.
But there was all those games like Contra,
and then even just
Double Dragon, Shinobi.
They were different, though. They were different
like
than gameplay.
those first 3 Mario games.
Side scrollers are to me the best.
They're amazing.
But if you're going to Legend of Zelda, something that I talked about on that show I guested on is, to me, one of the greatest games ever made was the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo.
Amazing.
It
really is one of the best games ever made.
It was just fun. It was just endless play. It was endless puzzles. It was just
it's fun.
There was
now.
Battles.
At
exactly.
this age.
You can still play it. It's still, like you don't need. And I think for those kids that are getting into starting with the next gen games, they'll have Breath of the Wild as their first Zelda game. They'll be able to go back to that game and I think love it. I think them going back to the original, I think might be tough.
It'll feel like they're playing a phone, like an old school phone game.
Yeah,
to go back to the original. But Link to the Past on the Super NES,
fantastic.
absolutely.
And Ocarina would fit right.
Ocarina was so good.
That's fantastic, and that's
even Majora's Mask. I think the Legend of Zelda series, even though I'm a Mario fan, I think overall is the best series of video games.
I think it's more consistently the best series.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, because even Wind Waker, which a lot of people didn't like because of the cell shading animation, but the story is great.
Right.
The gameplay is
and
fun.
wun. Who cares about the cell shading? I thought it was cool.
People that don't like
Would you think, but Final Fantasy with the legs that it has would be, but because it's very choppy and it's not linear.
I have thoughts on that.
Because there's some great Final Fantasies.
Those early Final
Fantasy
Fantasies were amazing.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. And then it goes to 7.
And 7's really great. As you get into the more modern ones, they're beautiful. But really, it's that turn-based gameplay doesn't do much for me.
No.
If they could open world that thing and not make it feel, I don't know, it would kind of ruin what it is. I wish they'd come out with just a retro series of Final Fantasy that goes back to that thing. I would be all about it. It's like I love Zork. That might be in my top 5. Zork was the greatest video game ever.
I know I'm trying to remember what that Disney game is. What's that Disney game that's
Epic
Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
if they would do open world,
oh my gosh,
open world Final Fantasy like Kingdom Hearts,
that would be great.
I think that would be a great next step.
Can somebody call Square right now and have them hire us?
But I think the problem with that is you'll have the purist fans that won't follow.
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's
But that's what
I agree. But I do think that those, either you go real retro with them or an open world. It sounds amazing to me. And you know what? Awesome. Maybe that just becomes Skyrim, and they just up the story element there.
Skyrim's pretty good.
Skyrim's great, but you know what? There are no consequences, really.
No.
So even though I've played the heck out of it, there's no consequences.
Nobody wants consequences.
Dragon Age is better because it's got consequences, and it's got better story.
So like the whole generations of all those open world RPGs, like when you first played World of Warcraft, there were serious consequences, and you would be really upset that you spent 40 hours and your character would die or something would happen and you'd be done. Not that they would die and you couldn't come back, but there were consequences.
Okay.
The same with EverQuest. Now it's all about being high end and doing all the crazy stuff. So like you play those games, World of Warcraft starts you like at max level right away. What's the point of that? Because part of the joy of those was the grind.
Building up. Yeah.
It's learning how to play your character, how to be like efficient at what it was, and it made it hard. I mean, I love those games. I mean, I've said this before. I think I got divorced. My first divorce was caused by EverQuest because I played that all the time. And you talk about all the time. I mean, like I would come home and play it till I had to get up for work the next day.
I thought it was the farting, but okay, we'll go with that.
Well, no, but that's all. I mean, that's like that South Park where you just sit there and gain weight and all you're doing is eating chips and stuff. That's accurate. I mean, obviously it's not everybody.
Hot Pockets, Mom.
Yeah, got it. I mean, but
bring me the Hot Pockets.
It was so bad. I mean, in my
Kitty.
Life, I mean, and I love there's other games I love, but those kinds of games they're hard, and everybody wants the end game down. Nobody wants to build to that.
Right.
And the building part was cool, I thought.
Which is funny because when you talk about modern games, there's a definite disconnect for me. I like the building up. I don't like necessarily the grinding. And a big trend in modern games is all this like customization. I like my eye color and my hair and all that. I hate that so much. Oh,
But that's a generational difference. So.
get me into the
but
game.
you're right, and that's why I don't like those games. I mean, I play, Sean and Steve love all these next gen games because they're sitting there and they're playing them in the middle of the night.
I just pick random.
Up leveling, getting all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, so if I buy this game to go play it online with everybody, I can't play it.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, I just die all the time, it's not fun. It's a waste of money.
It's like when the Xbox 360 came out, and I was playing all that online stuff. I was having so much fun going in and playing online with people all over the world. It was a blast. And I was playing stuff like Call of Duty, which I wasn't a big shooter guy. And I was playing Halo and stuff like that. I'm like, this is really fun. And then I remember that like Call of Duty 2 came out. And I buy the game in preview or whatever. And it had the first level or first 3 levels you could play. And I maxed it out. I was having a blast. I was playing against people. I'm having a blast. Day 1, the game comes out. I'm like, yes! I get down. I open it up. And already all these, like, 14-year-olds have these, like, unlocked weapons that are unbeatable. And it ruined it. And then I started getting sworn at by 14-year-olds. And I'm like, I'm out. Now I just play with 35-year-olds that swear at me. How old are you?
38 for another day.
You got 2 years till you are officially old balls.
Or Sunday. Is your birthday Sunday?
That's right. I keep 2 days.
2
days.
2 more days.
Wait,
it's important.
Today? What? Saturday?
Today's Friday.
Today's Friday.
Oh my gosh.
We don't do a marathon tomorrow, do we?
No.
All right.
It'll just
So that
like,
You'll
3
be
more
39 in 2 days?
Yeah.
Really? He's almost 40, Mark. Let's make fun of him.
Really?
50.
Really? Who's having that 100 party coming up?
Well, you know what? And the whole Halo dynamic, I can't operate the controls. I can't do it. I mean, there's a lot of single shooters I can do. Call of Duty I could do, especially on a keyboard.
But
like,
you weren't a console gamer like that, were you?
No, because I was older. I mean, but by the time you talk about these stuff like you were 10, I was 14 and I was doing different things. Not that I didn't love it, but
Yeah,
like,
that Wonder Woman show.
exactly. But but I was, a little bit younger, but like Centipede, I really liked Centipede.
The trackball was
I think it's one of the best games
and
ever.
And Millipede was what the heck?
But when I go to Retrocade, I will literally spend the first 45 minutes playing Centipede because
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because
Those are great, though.
those are great games.
But see, I played a ton of. It was actually the PS1 was the gateway. It was that controller. I got so used to that type of controller that all of these are second nature to me now. But when it first started, it was really hard to get used to
Halo?
that. Yeah.
Halo's tough because it's the two.
Halo got real easy for me real quick. But it's probably because I'm telling you, I played. I must have had 75. You've seen. I must have had 75 PlayStation 1 games alone.
He did.
and I just played all of them. Even like Einzinger. Remember that game? That was the square fighting game.
Yeah, that's
that was bad news. And Terasaki or whatever, the
I like
Star Wars one.
I like the for PlayStation. Like what got me liking PlayStation was Battle Arena Toshinden.
Oh yeah, it was a great game.
Because I remember playing it the first time and seeing it, like what because the first 3D, like even though they're I played
terrible.
it now and I'm like, oh my god, this is just
But
awful, but
terrible.
It's
And the
like
camera
3D.
angles. That one is
You
the one
lose
where,
your guy, and like
is that the one where they get the angle that there's one where it gets an angle that's like the heel of your foot, and you're like,
when it
I
zooms
can't-
in.
Yeah, you're like, I can't even get around his heel to see what's gonna happen.
that used to happen in Ocarina a lot. You lose perspective
Yes.
with the camera because you'd be like running and
the
you hit something, you'd be
64.
like, no.
Yeah, the Nintendo 64 was notorious for losing the camera angles. I mean,
Yeah.
in all the games, Super Mario 64. I mean, it's some of the worst. And that's the thing. Like it had like we talked about with Ocarina of Time and Majora's, like some of the greatest games that we've probably ever gotten combined. But it also had some of the worst because they could not figure that out. I mean, what the worst game ever is Superman for 64.
So bad.
And if anybody tells me that they passed the rings,
No.
Oh, yeah.
they're a liar.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. It's like you can never
They
do that.
are
You
liars.
cannot. You cannot.
I got
Have you
lied.
ever tried to look it up?
Mark my words.
Have you ever tried to look it up? You got a catchphrase. You are liars. Have you ever tried to look that up on YouTube to see anyone play through it?
I have not.
I'm sure somebody has, but
It's probably
It's
like
all
some
fake.
it's like some 3-year-old kid.
I couldn't
What is
get
Some
Billy?
3-year-old
is
just going,
Billy on that?
done.
Did Billy do that? Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell. Yeah, right.
I'm gonna
I'm telling you,
like.
there-
He made 1 million points in
what
Superman.
was the one? The one just broke the other day. There was somebody did a speed through of a game, and it was one of these like giant games that are like 8 million hours, and they did a speed through, and it was like 7 minutes, and it was. I mean, what the hell?
The fastest thing I ever did like a speed run on just as a joke, and that was Contra. But like I had the 30 lives, so I
Yeah.
didn't care if I
Yeah.
died. I just kept going. I
Yeah.
did it like in 18 minutes or something like that. Like, but it's just like you just keep going.
How about the greatest moment in speed through? I mean, we don't really speed through, but the speed through.
Yeah,
the greatest
I
moment
definitely don't speed through anything.
in gaming was when you first discovered the hidden thing on Mario that you could go up and you're like, I just warped to level 7. I'm almost done with this game. That was the greatest moment.
It was, but see, here's the
then you
problem
missed all
with
those
warping.
fun
Yeah,
games.
it's true, but the thing is, if you weren't really good at it, you would never be good enough to beat 8.
Right.
Because
Right.
I think getting through those levels got you better. It taught you the proper way
agree.
to jump, the proper way to do things.
I agree.
And once you
But I did love when I found that.
Oh, of course, everybody loved to warp.
I found it, but then I was like, I went
still
back
don't understand,
and I worked my way through so that I got better.
I look at a game like Super Mario 3 that
Wouldn't it be
put
great if
in
we-
the warp whistles on purpose, but they put them in areas where who would even decide in a dungeon to try to fly up?
It would
there's
be
nothing to
great
show
if
you
we
that.
spent as much time
Nerds.
working on our
Nerds.
professional lives as we did trying to figure out how to warp properly.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I go back and fix, I want to get better at this game so that I can do. What is wrong with us?
It was a shortcut for the programmers so that they could get to the
Yes.
levels to debug. That's
Yes.
the only reason they never left them in.
Right.
Bastards.
I do love Easter eggs. Some of them are programmers doing things like that, and some of them are the programmers dropping them. And the first one I ever heard of, I mentioned this on our shows before. I had a friend in high school that was brilliant. He was freaking brilliant, gross brilliant. And he was doing gaming stuff. When they ported Dig Dug over to the Atari and those platforms, he did all of the ports for every system. This teenage kid. They couldn't put his name on anything because he was underage. But he did all of it. And the craziest one was I was obsessed with Zork. Now, this was MIT kids that put this together, right? That was the big buzz on it. So we're having lunch one day, and Waldo, his name was Waldo, says, we were talking about it, and he goes, I wrote a big chunk of that. We're like, get the hell out of here. At the time, we weren't believing him on a lot of this stuff. It all proved to be true. But he goes, I did a lot of work on that. We're like, no, it's these MIT kids. He goes, yeah, they were having a lot of gaming issues and a lot of porting issues So I wrote a whole bunch. Like, there's no way. And he goes, no, I put a bug in there. And we're like 14, and we're talking like 1983, so none of us had ever heard these words. And he tells us, remember, I don't know if you guys played Zork, but there's a hidden, you go into this dungeon area, and the way you solve your way through it is you literally had to sit there with pen and paper and make a map, because it would be like, turn left, turn left, turn left. You're at a wall. Crap, back, 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 back. And it was this complicated maze. And he says, he gives us this whole thing, turn left, turn left, turn right, turn right, this whole thing, and then he goes, turn to the wall. It's a wall. There is nothing you could do, like tap it around. He goes, now type in the words like 1, 2, 3, kazoo or something. The wall opens. There's a robot in Zork, and it says, hi, I'm Waldo. I actually wrote this part. Holy cow! He told us, we found it. It was him. Is that the greatest Easter
awesome.
egg? I loved it. Although I wouldn't play that game, though. It's reading.
No. It's like I don't like any computer port. I don't want to read. I don't want to type on a keyboard.
I don't play on my computer because I'm working on the computer. I mean, seriously, I have a hard time with computer gaming. Console is the way I have to do it.
I agree.
So,
And the greatest console ever.
oh, yikes. You know, for the longest time I would have said the PS2 because that one owned me. Might be the Xbox 360.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, the Xbox 360's
It might
library
be the SNES.
That's where I'm going. I'm going with the Super Nintendo.
It might be. It's the SNES versus the PS2.
I love
greatest
the
console ever.
NES. The thing is, the SNES, the gameplay and the controller scheme, the added buttons, the top buttons, the 4-button controls, what you can do.
It all went way up.
And you go from you go with two probably of the top 10 greatest games with A Link to the Past and Super Mario World, and then on top of that you've got games like Contra on the Super Nintendo, you've got Castlevania on the Super Nintendo, where it changed all the type of gameplay, it changed the
Everything.
3D graphics.
Right.
I agree.
You know,
Because
yeah,
they finally had some computing power.
Sega did it well with the Genesis, but Nintendo was already working on that and took it to that next level. I mean, F-Zero, like
the
that.
Genesis controller was awful with the buttons. The
The
buttons
three
were
button. I
horrible
hated
with
the 3-button. I hated the side. It
Yeah.
just didn't feel comfortable in your
Right.
hand, and it just didn't. It wasn't good.
Yeah, and the reason I say the 360 is the number of games I bought for that system and the amount of play I did on that system.
Well, 360 and PS2
But PS2, I
had
think,
like
wins.
some of the longest runs of a console. Well,
Longer than, well, yeah.
When I think about
It
playing
depends.
Metal Gear Solid on the PS2, that was
See, I didn't like that PlayStation controller.
God, it was amazing.
It felt bulky in my hands, like because it had those the PS2 had the long prongs.
It had
on
the two
bottom.
things on the side like that.
But it had the long like it
the one with the wiener
He's-
in the middle was the
not in the middle, but it had the two like it had.
the
he
two
didn't.
things that
He
went
didn't
off
like.
this.
He didn't like the
don't like
the
that feel?
side. The feel, yeah.
So I got used to it real fast. I loved that. Then everything else felt weird. Like the Xbox ones felt like I was holding
Yeah, it was
something
a
like
little-
this.
Like the worst controller ever made, which is actually coming back in style because Xbox is releasing the Duke for the Xbox One. Is the Duke?
Oh,
the Duke.
yeah.
When that
That was
Xbox
terrible.
original Xbox
No.
came out, and you got that steering wheel for a controller.
I
never.
No,
bought
I got.
an
There's a worse
Xbox.
one. There's a worse one. The
television?
Dreamcast controller.
No, I love the Dreamcast
No.
controller. I just bought a Dreamcast
I'll tell you-
controller, and I don't even have a Dreamcast.
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. I didn't mind the feel
It's
of
the
it.
cord coming out of the
cord
bottom.
coming out of the bottom was the worst
Did the
design
Dreamcast
ever.
Did the Dreamcast have a
It
storage
had a little
thing
clip
in the
thing,
middle?
yeah. So if
It
you
had-
played the game
it had an
Seaman,
LCD.
it had him swimming around on your...
Yeah.
It had an LC. That's why the cord had to come from the bottom, is because they did something different. They wanted to change it up. They gave you a memory card with the LCD,
A little bit thicker there in the middle.
but they wanted to keep it. I get it,
But it was
the
garbage.
The Dreamcast is the most underrated
I agree.
system ever.
Okay, now
slow.
we're
The
not...
loading on it
We're
was slow.
talking the controller.
I know.
If we're talking systems, I loved the Dreamcast. It's a shame that went away fast.
It is one of the
Those
best
games were
sports
amazing.
game systems
Yeah, it did.
ever.
But that's because AE only did AE was exclusive with them for a while, wasn't
Yeah.
it? I mean,
Yeah,
so AE
yeah.
did all that stuff. I thought like the most impactful
But
was
the
the
2K
64.
games, the 2K games.
64.
I thought when the 64 came out, that changed a lot of stuff because it.
Oh, well, I mean, with the 3D gaming and stuff, and the 64 had the first joystick controller.
Right.
Like Nintendo came up with the D-pad, and then Nintendo put the joystick on the controller, and like
Right.
they kept upping the game. So
Right.
if you look at like every controller, it's like they're stealing, not stealing, but it's like Nintendo developed it first.
Right. You know, it's funny, when I was catering at the time the N64 came out, and I will never forget, because of that controller, because I thought the controller was all right. I didn't love it. These guys I was catering with, every day they'd come in, like, I was playing my N64 all night. They're like, that's the best controller I've ever touched. I was like, I can't wait to play this. And then I thought it was okay. I liked the PlayStation better.
Well, I think it's because a lot of people don't hold it right. You know, because like the game, it was made for versatile gameplay. So you could hold it like a regular controller, and people had a hard time with the joystick.
Right.
You could move it to the middle. That's what that third prong was there.
Yeah, you're supposed to
because then you could hold it in the middle
this.
and get the joystick going. I mean, you could flip it, and like I thought it was genius.
I thought so too. I just didn't love the. Well,
because it was the size and everything. I get it,
and I
but
loved the feel of that PlayStation one. But it's everybody has their own thing.
some of the best
But
games.
the PlayStation 2
Mario
one was
Party
actually
games
improved.
were the best. The Mario Party games.
Martha loved those.
We played them all this New Year's on a Nintendo 64 in my living room.
We
Did
like
not?
them, but I hate the transition between the mini games is too slow for me. It's boring. I wish it was just like WarioWare, which was just a bunch of mini games.
No,
and
but
I'd
I
have a blast with it.
like the board gameplay because it's like a board game. You guys love your board games, right? Well, this is a virtual board game. You're playing.
I know.
You're hitting the dice. You're going in directions.
I don't hate it. It's just I find that part of the gameplay is a little boring, where I think they could have done a better job. I'll tell you which one I really don't like. Can we get into the ones we don't like? Everybody loves this Super Smash Brothers, and I think it's super hot trash. I don't get it. Kids love it. It's a generational thing. I don't get it. I think
like
the
Super
gameplay
Smash Brothers.
blows. I don't get why I'm fighting Mario and Samus. I don't get it. When it
It's like
first came out, I was like, "Oh, I'll try it." I didn't like it, and then everyone's talking about it on like we got a Wii U this year. We're behind the times, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Wii U version is dynamite." It is not dynamite. She loves it. I'm glad she loves it. I don't. If I'm gonna fight, I might as well fight with like Tekken or something like that.
I think
I'm not gonna fight anymore. I'm a lover, not a fighter, Jenny. Just keep that in mind.
I think yeah, you're right. It's more focused toward the kids on a fighting aspect, but I think it's kind of it's different because
But
you
you
got
like
the
the
platforms.
play
you
of
got
it?
I don't mind it.
I do like the platforms. There's elements I like. I just don't think the fighting is. It seems.
I just think it's always weird that you get
Button mash, button
the
mash.
Wii Fit character as a fighter, and it's so always weird to me. Like,
The Wii Fit character is the best fighter.
I always fight with Little Mac.
Oh,
From-
I like Zelda.
Punch Out, one of the greatest sports games ever.
Oh yeah. You ever played at the arcade? The one where it had the actual things you put your hands in.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great.
It had
'cause
two gloves that looked like gloves and
Yeah,
the plastic
and you'd put
handles.
your hands in
You
it.
put your hands in it.
And you're like, it'd go, uppercut, and you're like, I can't even do this.
Well, it was
was great.
Yeah,
Oh, it's so good.
that was. One
Did
of
we
the
get
best-
through our games? What else do we have?
That was one of the best video games. Punch Out.
This is your show.
I know. Sorry, my co-hosts were texting me asking if we were still doing it.
Tell them no. You found better co-hosts.
I will.
Molly and
Yeah, right.
Of course, I've got the League of Junior Geeks coming up.
I want to know if Turtles 2 on the original NES
No. Was it great? Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It was fantastic. So was
Would it be a
Battletoads, which
top
was so
five?
hard.
No, Battletoads, no.
You would be shocked how far I got in that game, and that was a really impossible game. Turtles 2 was great.
See,
Wouldn't
I
make my
have a
list.
special place in my heart for the Turtles series because I love the Turtles. I grew up with the Turtles. Turtles 2, playing it in the arcade,
Oh,
nothing like it. I mean, you get that.
That was
four-player-
amazing.
It was the best, and I do love it. I actually play with my son every now and then, like because he can. Where is he? He fell asleep. Like
So he's a typical League of Geeks
he's
listener.
able to exactly. He's able to control it and play it well, and it's an easy one to control. It's a button masher, but it's fun, and I do like it. I just don't think it's it's like a difficult game. It's not a top 5. You know, there's so many others. I mean,
once again, it's like Battletoads on there. Battletoads was super hard, but actually, when you got past that I think it was the skateboarding thing that was so hard, it actually got really good. And then you hit another hard level later that was like, forget it. I did really like that one. You know, there was a game, I want to bring up a game that I don't know if it ever came out. I had a friend that worked for Konami. And
all these friends.
She worked for Konami, and she was getting me.
Squad.
Yeah, we were texting today.
Yes.
She got me a thing so I could demo prototype games. So she was giving me these games for the original Nintendo, and she gave me one which was a Winter Games. So it was half pipe and skiing. And Rodney Dangerfield was the character that was the announcer. Hey, you're running down the half pipe. I'm sure it was like my impression of him. It wasn't him, but it had his face and everything. That one I played the heck out of. It was actually pretty fun. But there was a better one. And this is funny because I said Red Dead Redemption. There was a Lone Ranger game. And I don't know if it ever came out.
It did.
It wasn't great.
I have it.
You have it where you fill your gun and you shoot.
Yeah.
I must have played an entire year of my life with that game. And I'd play it and think, I don't think I love this.
It's a really
I couldn't stop playing it.
It is considered one of the rare NES games.
Well, I have it before it was put out. I still have the unlabeled box of that one.
Nice.
I think. I probably gave it to you.
I don't have an unlabeled box. I wish I did.
Then I probably have it because no one would have bought it.
Then you can give it to me.
Yeah, it was a hell of a game. And it was one that I didn't know even came out. I never heard anyone talk about it. I never saw it anywhere. And it wasn't great, but the parts that were great were really great. There was really innovative stuff
Johnny
in it.
Depp part was great.
Yeah, right. Way before Johnny Depp.
That game, no. If they made a game of that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
You just punch the TV and just like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Little Mac punches
Army
the TV.
Hammer with his fake Batman mask on.
Army Hammer.
So I guess that's it. I mean,
is that it?
We're already in
What we
Tastic
got?
Cage.
Yeah, we're not doing Geek-tastic Cage.
So
We got 5 more minutes.
What about
All right.
your best arcade games?
Like at the arcade?
At the arcade.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Well,
No pinball.
here's the thing. I didn't go to the arcade, and I'm not saying this in the wrong way, but I didn't go like you two. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have where we went to the arcade all the time. Like it would be like
By the
not as
time you
often.
would have been going, it was more like a Len's Castle at the mall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas
It
for
wasn't-
us, there were like arcades
Peacock
in
Palace
strip
in
malls,
Northbrook.
and you would go there and you'd get a $5 bill and you just buy $5 in quarters, and that was your day. And It
Yeah.
was awesome.
For me, it would be the Turtles too. I mean, that's one of because I play 4-player that the X-Men game.
Oh my God, that X-Men game
think
was
it was
great.
good,
Yeah, I actually own a arcade machine at home, and I have the Capcom,
Yeah,
Marvel
right.
Capcom Fighter game.
Nice.
Like,
That's
those
pretty
are
good.
those are great too.
Those
Those
are
a lot of
great
fun.
too. Yeah. When I think about it, I think old school because that's what I was doing then. Even though I played all the way through. I mean, I even went to a pinball arcade recently. It was awesome. I think it's really the classics. Like you know what game was really dumb and I must have put $300 in was Tempest.
I was going to mention that. I love that game. It was
Why did we
impossible.
love it so much? And it was so great.
It's great and it's hard and it's,
Yeah. And I remember they always had like Cubert and Tempest and Karate. Remember Karate where it
Yeah.
was just 2 figures? Fight.
Double Dragon on the console was really good.
Yeah. I remember all that stuff. I played it all, but it was the Popeye game was really good.
Burger
Pac-Man.
Time was good.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Burger Time
Time
was great.
Burger Time was good.
You know what? Burger Time. I had a friend who owned it. Like I think that's why I had an obsession with wanting an arcade machine because he had it in his room. Like when we were kids, like he had.
Let's go beat him to
a
death with
Burger
bars of
Time
soap.
machine. Like,
Let's go get
I
our
remember
socks and
I
we'll
would,
put
I
soap
would be
in it and
like
we'll beat him to death.
every day after
Yeah.
school because like I lived in an apartment condominium complex and like he was like next building over bottom so like I would always be like, Mom, can I go over there? Can I go over there? And I would just go over there. Like I didn't like the kid that much, but I went over there to play his Burger
I hope
Time.
he's not listening. He's like, I loved you,
You're my
Will.
best friend ever.
Wait a minute. Tear.
Whatever. He was kind of
You like the
a
classics,
jerk.
like,
He
you're
just
saying, like, I
picked up
love
his phone and
sending-
went unsubscribe.
unfriending you. So
I lost a subscriber today. What are you going to do?
And that kid was Ben Affleck.
We were best friends.
I did love Burger Time. I thought that was a great game. And you know what? There wasn't really a port of it forever.
Yeah, the Nintendo port is not good.
No, and I don't know why, because that game, it was pretty simple.
I think they just went past it and came up with other stuff for it.
Which is too bad, because everyone I know that played that always talks about Burger
was
Time.
a good arcade game. I mean, what's like Centipede or Missile Command never translated well to a console because the controller just wasn't there.
Yeah, although I played the hell out of both of those on the Atari, especially Missile Command. Oh, my God.
Missile Command was a little bit okay, but it was hard with the joystick as opposed to the rollerball because you would do that. So.
Centipede was impossible, but I still played it. Didn't they have a Centipede one at one point where it was the dial, where it wasn't even the rollerball?
Yeah, they did.
That was terrible.
It's not Centipede because you needed to be able to go up and down.
You'd be able to go up and down and get behind him and stuff. Yeah, man.
Sports game I loved. I loved NBA Jam. I know you guys, you don't.
No, I used to play that stuff. You can make
NBA
the
Jam
big head mode.
in the arcade.
Yeah, it was great.
Awesome.
Boom! Fire!
The whole arcade machine would shake. He's screaming at you.
No, I used to love that. I used to do a thing, because I'm not a big sports guy, but at all. But I used to, watch some, and I used to play the games, and what I would do is every, 2 years, I would buy whatever the latest, the top one from the year before was, because I don't care about the roster, and really, the gameplay would stay the same, basically.
Period of time, man.
I liked some of the baseball games. The ones that I actually liked were the really old school. Tecmo Bowl, I played the hell out of. Mutant Football League, I played the heck out of. I even liked, this is really old and really janky, but I really liked Bird versus Jordan. Do you remember that? It was on
Jordan versus Bird.
It was on
right.
the PC. And
it was also on the Nintendo.
That. And I got so good, I could be way down in the corner, and every time, three-pointer. I'm like, yeah! I can play basketball.
So good at basketball.
And then I'd run outside and trip and get a bloody nose and, lose a finger. And, yeah.
Nice.
And then I'm like, you're playing with one of those red balls. That's not even a basketball. No, but it bounces great.
Dodgeball.
But it's so bouncy.
Which would be a great game if they could ever do that.
Dodgeball?
Dodgeball.
Well, that Winter Olympics.
Rivals.
Baseball.
They had a game like that, Arch Rivals for basketball, where you'd be able to punch people in the face.
That was actually one of the reasons I liked. I told you that downhill snowboarding. One of the modes in that was snowball fight. So it was great. You had a pile of snowballs, and kids would run by, and they were random. So it wasn't just like this. They'd be running like this, and you would try to move your controller, and you're doing it like this because you can't just sit. And you would target these kids and try to hit them in the face with snowballs, and your snowball thing would deplete, and you got to stop and make snowballs while they're pelting you with snowballs. It was what a great game. No one would ever buy Snowball Fight, but they should have, because it was such a good game.
Been real action and shocking.
I think they had a game though. I think it was Snow Brothers from the Nintendo, which is a very rare and expensive game. I think
Probably the game I have
without
the
if
label.
You have it, oh my god! If you have it without the label, probably get a nice.
I wish it had dog pee mode, so you could put dog pee on the snowball. Rock mode,
yellow snow mode.
Kid has to run home crying when you get hit with that one.
I have one still.
I still have mine.
Which one?
Power pad.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for a power glove. I need to find a power glove. I saw somebody who turned a power glove into the Thanos gauntlet, and I loved it. But then I was upset because he ruined a power glove, and I'm like, I don't know what to think. I want a power glove.
They have one for sale at Retrocade, don't they?
Well, I want a reasonably priced power glove. When I've seen them for sale, people have. You're talking $200-$300 for it.
The problem is, did you ever play with one?
No, I just want a power glove.
Awful.
They're
Do
awful.
you think you could fit on this big sausage here?
Yes.
Alex, you can play.
Yes.
Well, he could play with it for sure.
He'd be walking around with this big thing.
Here's how he'd play with it. Yay!
Did you ever?
Like, no!
Do you watch the Goldbergs?
Yeah.
There's an episode of the Goldbergs where he gets the power glove.
Yeah.
Doesn't he
And
walk around school with it?
no, he gets it, and his dad gets mad at him and takes it, rips the cord out.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's a Minton box power glove.
Well, at that time, they were all mint in box.
True, but still, to me, Like if I had a time machine, I would go back in time and get just a case of power gloves. That's all I would do.
And you'd buy
And go to a Huey Lewis concert. You'd be so happy.
I would love it.
because you're hip to be square.
Are we done?
Would you
We're
buy
done.
any ET cartridge games?
I have an ET cartridge game for the
So
Atari.
bad.
The worst.
That is not, and anyone that's like, it's not that bad.
It's
Seriously, it's terrible.
Even the programmers have said it's terrible.
It's terrible. All right, that's it. Let's end the marathon.
We're done. Thank you all for listening.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye, Indy PopCon.
For updates about upcoming SMG Podcast Marathons, follow us on Twitter at SMG Pods, on Facebook at Southgate Media Group, or go to our website and sign up for our email list at southgatemediagroup.com. Thanks again for listening.